My very first memory of life was abuse. I look back on it now, and everything that I saw as a child was abuse. My dad was he was a raging drunk. He would go out, get drunk, come home, and he would look for a fight. My mom was on the receiving end of that. At 7 years old, I came to the conclusion it was kill or be killed. So in my mind, I believed that in order to save my mom and myself and my sisters, that I was gonna have to kill my dad. 2 times, I took the gun down and I got to his room, and if it wasn't for my mom being in there, the fear of shooting her, I would have shot him. At 13 years old, I had a niece born. She had a terminal liver disease. She was not gonna live, and we knew it. And something happened in my dad. My dad fell in love. He fell in love with that little girl. He showed my mom love and respect. He showed me love and respect, my sisters. I look back and I remember times that he would go off by himself and he would say he was going to check fence line or whatever, but I would look and he would be out there and he'd be talking. I know now he was praying, he was talking to God. My niece passed away just before 15 months old. 2 weeks later, my dad was in the hospital being diagnosed with cancer. My dad passed away after 2 years of fighting. Last time I saw him, he weighed less than 75 pounds. He had lost over 100 pounds. And it was like I was scared to get close to him. So at 16 years old, I'm pretty much on my own. Boy, I'm going through some spiritual demons. I'm battling, I'm fighting, and I'm fighting the fight for the demons. I'm telling myself, you're a coward, you're worthless, there's no one ever gonna love you, you're unlovable. And they began to tell me that I needed to kill myself. I believe somehow that God was angry with me for everything from the anger and the hate as a child, the pornography, the things that I had done with my dad. I believe God hated me. So I went out on a dirt road out in the middle of nowhere. It was 2 or 3 in the morning. And I got on my hood with a shotgun, the same shotgun that I wanted to kill my dad with, I was gonna kill myself with. Put the gun in my mouth and I reached down and I heard a voice and it was just screaming, "What about your mom?" And I said, "What about her? She doesn't care." And that same voice said, "She's been through everything you've been through and then a whole lot more." And all I could see was it was more blood on my hands. And finally I walked away and I hated myself even more. And I think about the prayers and I think, where was God during all this time? It took a couple of weeks, but he showed me a vision of him just begging me to hear him. It was like I was in a interrogation room with the mirrors around and all I could see was me and the person that I hated the most. And on the outside there was the Lord and he was begging me to hear him and I couldn't hear. I took that and I said, okay, I get it. And the Lord showed me one more thing. I could see him begging for me to hear him, but I looked inside the room and it wasn't me, it was my son. I was thinking back and I've considered suicide twice over the last 3 or 4 years. And I've had depression probably 4 or 5 times. I think about it and I praise God for it. I know that all those prayers that I thought God wasn't answering, it's not that he wasn't answering, he was joining me in them. What I think is important is for men to understand that you need to reach out. You can't fight that battle on your own. You need to reach out. My youngest son, he was going to turn 21 and he kept telling us he was going to go do a bar crawl, and I didn't understand what a bar crawl was, but it turns out it's where the birthday boy goes to the bar, they give him a heavy drink, a shot, and then patrons also feed the drunk, and the thing is to get as drunk as you can, as quick as you can. And sure enough, middle of the night, we get a phone call, my son is in ICU. He had been intubated, so he had a big hose down his throat, and the nurse came in and she said, when he wakes up, he's gonna try to pull that hose out of his throat, and it's gonna do lifelong damage if you let him. You can't let him. So he began to move around. I saw his eyes flickering, so I got up there and I was ready. He had fear in his eyes, and he started to reach for that hose, and I grabbed his arms, and I held him, and he's fighting me, and I'm just telling him over and over, just listen to me. And I look back on my relationship with the Lord, and I look and I see where God saw me with that exact same look in my eyes over and over. And I know now that God was never trying to hurt me. He was trying to hold my hands to keep me from hurting myself. Just recently, I was talking to the Lord, and I said, Lord, I just want to thank you for the promise of heaven. And he said, son, it's not about you and your journey to heaven. It's about who you're going to bring with you. I just want to say that I love my dad. I miss my dad, and I can't wait to see him again.